This is definitely the most advanced weapon I've ever seen. When the man in the room flips a switch, the villa's entire fence transforms into incredibly powerful anti-aircraft machine guns. At this moment, a reckless group of terrorists tries to climb in to attack the villa. But little do they know, the anti-aircraft guns and a top assassin see them as lambs to the slaughter. As the terrorists are about to set foot on his land, he opens fire without hesitation, because he hates it when people trespass on his territory. In the blink of an eye, all the intruders are mowed down, and their leader is so terrified he almost pees his pants. Even the officials in the command center were completely stunned. It was then they truly realized how formidable their opponent was. Their first wave of men were nothing more than cannon fodder. No one expected the enemy's firepower to be so intense. Just the opening salvo had them decimated. The commander watching could only look on helplessly. Continuing the attack would just be sending his troops to die for nothing. So, command immediately ordered a retreat, telling the troops to fall back 30 miles and await new orders. The gunfire stopped. The villa's machine gun barrels glowed red, proof of their fierce firepower. The officials wanted to attack this place because the mountain held valuable mineral resources they needed. Unfortunately for them, the entire mountain was this man's territory, and without his permission, no one could set foot here. However, the officials had no intention of giving up. Commander, the death toll here is 73. I think we can attack. If I listened to you, our own soldiers would be the ones lying dead on the ground. Wait until dark to make your move. But Commander, we're ready now. You're on his territory. He's been preparing for over 10 years. To beat a crocodile in water, you use your brain, not your strength. They planned to use the cover of darkness for a surprise attack, but they would soon pay dearly for their confidence. Because this move would absolutely enrage the man. The man's name is Sahadeva, also known as the Divine Eagle. He was once a top assassin, feared by everyone. Hearing his name or nickname put people on high alert, because the Divine Eagle could be watching from anywhere. He was the nightmare of gangs and drug traffickers. The biggest local drug lord, terrified of the Divine Eagle, had 4 layers of security and a completely bulletproof villa. And yet, he was still killed by the Divine Eagle. Right inside the villa he believed was impenetrable. The bullet was fired through a high-speed ventilation fan. The difficulty of that shot is almost unimaginable. After hearing about this, a mob boss decided to strike first. They tracked him to a riverbank where he was fishing and immediately sent a team to take him out. But when they arrived, the Divine Eagle had vanished. Little did they know, the hunters had just become the hunted. In less than 30 seconds, all the bounty hunters the gang had hired were dead. But this man of steel also had a soft side. One day, he was about to kill a corrupt cop preying on citizens, but at the critical moment, he couldn't pull the trigger, because a young woman had appeared in his scope. His spotter was still tracking the target and calling out the data. But his sights remained fixed on the girl. He never looked away, not even after the target was gone. With that one look, he fell deeply in love with her. In his mind, he was probably already naming their future children. From that day on, Sahadeva began to quietly watch over the girl. One day, the girl was cornered by armed thugs in an alley. They forced her to hand over her valuables and even tried to make her take off her clothes. This sight enraged Sahadeva, who was secretly watching from afar. One of the thugs realized a sniper had them in his sights. So they quickly gave back her things and scattered. Although she didn't understand why, she could feel someone watching over her from the shadows. Watching her from afar like this only made his feelings for her grow stronger. After that, he silently protected her from nearby every single day. When she went out, he would watch her through his sniper scope. When she was at the kindergarten, he would sit across from it, keeping watch. But unexpectedly, one of her students spotted him. The little girl walked right up to him and asked if he had a crush on her teacher, Lisa. This made Sahadeva blush instantly. However, through the little girl, he learned more about Lisa. When he learned Lisa skipped breakfast because she was upset, he immediately used his sniper rifle to shoot down a fruit from a nearby tree for her. This made Lisa even more certain that someone was secretly protecting her. She just had no idea who it was. So, even when Sahadeva followed her, she remained completely unaware. But she knew some person, or some guardian angel, was always looking out for her. Lisa would playfully use binoculars to try and find this mystery person, but it was always in vain. She saw a man hitting a woman on the street, so she pointed at him and made a kill gesture. When he didn't react, she pointed to the man's calf. Sahadeva immediately shot the man through the calf. Though they had never met, Their souls were already connected. Lisa even started asking for Sahadeva's opinion on what she should wear. She tried many times to meet him, but he always refused, worried his life as an assassin would put her in danger. Fed up with his hesitation, the little girl took matters into her own hands, tricking them both into a cable car. Thanks to the little girl's plan, the two finally met. It was a little awkward, but no words were needed. Their story had begun. Soon after, the two lovers were married. Soon, Lisa became pregnant. Just when it seemed they would live happily ever after, a tragedy struck that changed everything. One day, terrorists attacked their neighborhood, and Lisa's kindergarten was not spared. When Sahadeva arrived, the little girl was already dead, and his wife Lisa was barely hanging on. In the end, the doctor helplessly said, "We did everything we could." Sahadeva wanted to tear the terrorists apart, but found someone had already taken care of them. But his rage didn't subside, because he knew the terrorists' weapons were supplied by corrupt officials and businessmen. So Sahadeva began seizing illegal weapons and built his own domain on a mountain. He also built a cotton mill. Its purpose was to provide jobs for the local poor, which had been his wife Lisa's lifelong dream. Here, people didn't have to fear terrorists or corrupt officials, because without Sahadeva's permission, no one could enter. But then, a councilman running for office had his men try to drop flyers into Sahadeva's territory. But just as the flyer was about to land, Sahadeva shot an arrow, sending it right back. Meanwhile, a wealthy businessman approached the councilman. It turns out Sahadeva's mountain held rare mineral resources they coveted. The businessman said if the councilman could drive the people off the mountain, he'd give him 300 million rupees, with a 100 million deposit on the spot. Unable to resist the money, he immediately agreed to the businessman's proposal. But the next day, the businessman was attacked, and even his gun-wielding bodyguards were of no use. He tried to hide in his vault, but Sahadeva was like a phantom, already there. If you don't understand what I'm saying, then get ready for hell. I'm a cotton farmer. My name is Sahadeva. Terrified, the man dropped to his knees, begging for his life and promising to do whatever Sahadeva commanded. So, Sahadeva spared him, but made him use his resources to get a man out of prison. With the job done, the businessman calls the councilman, demanding he cancel their deal and leave the mountain people alone. But after hanging up, the councilman flashes a sinister smile. He gets one little warning and he's already scared. If he's out, I'll dig up that 30 billion myself. The councilman immediately went to Sahadeva demanding he move out. But Sahadeva didn't take him seriously at all. I may look like a pufferfish, but I'm a whale. Think twice. Meanwhile, Nason was also preparing to move on Sahadeva for interfering with their arms deals. To take Sahadeva down, they even joined forces with Pakistani arms dealers, planning to attack his villa in 3 days. To do this, they planted a female agent in Sahadeva's factory, with the mission of locating his hidden arsenal. Besides Nason, high-ranking government officials, whose interests were also threatened, decided to move against Sahadeva. Looking at the scene, I think we'll need snipers. Just snipers? That won't be enough. We're up against the Eagle. I've dispatched all armed forces to the Renegunta airbase. Now listen to me. The full military might of this nation will annihilate him. Meanwhile, the councilman wasn't sitting idle either. He arranged for over 20 thugs to infiltrate Sahadeva's territory. Little did they know, Sahadeva was already aware of all their plans. That night, a weapons truck arrived. The councilman's men took the opportunity to follow it into the factory, while Nazan's undercover agent was also secretly watching. 75th interception complete. I think we have some rats following us, don't we? How many? 25 of them. What followed was Sahadeva's one-man show of destruction. To make things more entertaining, he even armed those lowly soldiers himself. But it was all just to satisfy his own twisted sense of amusement. Meanwhile, Nazan's female agent seized the chance to sneak onto the truck, following it into Sahadeva's underground armory. Upon arrival, she discovered that her cover had been blown a long time ago. The man then tied her up, getting her a front row seat for the show. By this time, Sahadeva had already dealt with the rats. Immediately after, he went to warn the councilman, telling him to stay put for the next 24 hours, or face certain death. However, after waiting in front of the villa all night with nothing happening, the councilman decided to leave. But just as he was about to leave, a weapons truck suddenly came speeding towards him, nearly running him over. Terrified for his life, he obediently decided to stay put. Meanwhile, the troops sent by the officials had arrived at the designated location to confirm if Sahadeva was inside the villa. The team leader decided to go in undercover to scout the area. If Sahadeva was inside, he would use this high-tech device to signal the army to attack. He then disguised himself as an internet salesman and approached the villa's gate. He thought he wouldn't get in, but to his surprise, the gate suddenly swung open. What he didn't realize was that Sahadeva had already seen through his disguise and was letting him in on purpose. He tried to signal the army outside, but his little tricks were completely useless here. In the end, he was taken to the basement to join the audience. Through the large monitor, he realized that Sahadeva was already tracking the army's every move. Just then, Nissan and the Pakistani arms dealers also arrived on the scene. Seeing this, the officials hastily ordered the army to hold its position. The arms dealers, however, were eager to charge in. Unaware that every move on this mountain was being monitored by Sahadeva, he was more than ready to welcome them to the fight. Outside, the situation was incredibly tense. But inside the villa, it was eerily quiet. Sahadeva then had his men sound a warning siren, telling those outside not to cross the fence, or he would show absolutely no mercy. But the terrorists paid the warning no mind. And that's when the scene from the beginning of the video unfolded. In a matter of seconds, the terrorists who charged in were all but wiped out. Seeing this, the others were too terrified to make a move. As night fell, they used the cover of darkness and smoke bombs, causing Sahadeva to lose sight of his targets. They even sent in an attack helicopter, using its cannons to destroy the anti-aircraft guns on the perimeter wall. Meanwhile, through the smoke and darkness, the snipers located Sahadeva and managed to shoot him in the shoulder. Immediately, the ground troops used the opportunity to approach the main gate and plant a bomb. The commander hit the detonator, blowing the villa's gate apart. Everyone thought victory was within their grasp, but they had no idea the heavy price they were about to pay. Seeing the gate destroyed, the terrorists who had survived from earlier charged in once more. But at that moment, the villa's warning siren blared once again. Just as they were about to fall back, Sahadeva suddenly launched himself into the air. In one fluid motion, he landed in front of a soldier and delivered a devastating blow to his side. And of course, no stylish action move is complete without lighting up a huge cigar to look even cooler. With that done, he performed a stylish spin kick on another soldier and seamlessly grabbed his AK-47. He then raised the rifle and unleashed a furious barrage of gunfire. Facing return fire, he immediately used one of his enemies as a human shield. Just then, an army shell exploded, creating a thick smokescreen, giving Sahadeva the perfect chance to switch tactics. In the blink of an eye, he vanished from sight. When he reappeared holding a shield, the officials were left completely speechless. A fearless grunt charged forward, but Sahadeva simply powered up his fist and sent him flying with a single punch. He then kicked a shotgun up from the ground and unleashed a blast at the intruders. The terrified leader tried to flee, but Sahadeva slammed him to the ground with his shield. Sahadeva then pinned the leader down with his foot and shoved a live grenade into his mouth. The leader was instantly blown to smithereens. The commander ordered the helicopter's Gatling gun to open fire on Sahadeva. But even after the Gatling gun unloaded an entire belt of ammo, Sahadeva was unharmed, which completely enraged him. It looked like Sahadeva was about to unleash his ultimate weapon. His men all pressed buttons in unison, as Sahadeva slowly took aim with just his finger. At the same time, the giant statue behind him began to rise and sink. Before the intruders could figure out what he was doing, the weapon systems on his arm were powered to maximum. Immediately after, multiple anti-aircraft cannons extended from the statue's fingers. At that moment, everyone on the scene, along with the officials in the command center, was completely stunned, but it was too late for them to retreat, as the statue's cannons had already begun to open fire. In an instant, the entire battlefield was blanketed by a storm of cannon shells and bullets. Even the highly trained soldiers were torn to shreds, completely unable to fight back. At this point, they were nothing more than target practice. Then, he switched tactics. The next second, a dense hail of bullets was directed at the attack helicopter. In the blink of an eye, the helicopter was torn apart and came crashing down. They were like helpless prey, struggling in the storm of gunfire for a full 5 minutes, until Sahadeva's hand finally grew tired. Only then did the survivors have a chance to breathe a sigh of relief. And just then, Sahadeva stunned everyone once again with his next move. He effortlessly lifted the steel gate, which weighed thousands of pounds, and placed it back in its original position. His godlike strength and commanding presence left everyone, both on site and in the command center, completely in awe. After closing the gate, the man simply gestured with his finger for them to leave. His powerful presence was so intimidating that the soldiers could hardly breathe. With that settled, Sahadeva turned and went back inside to scroll through some short videos. I've witnessed many wars, but I've never seen a man this powerful. Commander, we only have one option left, an airstrike. To completely eliminate Sahadeva, they even ordered a missile strike from fighter jets. But just then, Romani, the police chief who should have been in prison, suddenly appears on the scene. His goal is to kill Sahadeva with his own hands. But Romani has no idea that Sahadeva was the one who had him released from prison. It turns out the adorable little girl who helped Sahadeva pursue Lisa was Romani's own daughter. When terrorists attacked the preschool, she was tragically caught in the attack. Afterward, Romani used his authority to kill the terrorists himself, but ended up in prison for it. So, he blames it all on Sahadeva, believing he was the one who led the terrorists there. When Sahadeva sees Romani, he tells his men to let him in. But the moment Romani sees Sahadeva, he lunges at him, unleashing years of pent-up hatred, and Sahadeva, feeling guilty about Romani's daughter, doesn't fight back. But this guy pushes his luck, saying, "After I kill you, I'll send all these weapons back and bury your ambitions right here." 12 intelligence agencies and 16 governments couldn't stop me. As long as I don't allow it, no one is permitted to act recklessly here without my permission. Who do you think you are? Sahadeva then tells Romani, "You must live well, because a 10-year life is waiting for you. As for this 10-year life, we'll talk about it later." Immediately after, Sahadeva orders his men to get everyone out. As it turns out, he had already planted countless explosives under the mansion. Once everyone is safely outside, the bomb's countdown hits 0. The entire mansion erupts in a massive explosion. The mansion is reduced to ashes before their eyes. As the officials celebrate their victory, little do they know, it's all an illusion. Not long after, Sahadeva reappears in Denmark, continuing his fight against criminals as always. This time, however, he's not fighting alone, he's leading a powerful organization for justice. While most people believe he died in the explosion. And that 10-year life Sahadeva mentioned? It turns out to be a 10-year-old girl. That year, when terrorists attacked the preschool, his wife was tragically killed. But thankfully, she gave birth to their daughter just before she died. Feeling guilty towards both the girl and Romani, Sahadeva raised his daughter in Romani's name. He never even met his own daughter, so she would always believe that Romani was her father. Romani thinks Sahadeva got his daughter killed, while Sahadeva has raised his own daughter to be Romani's. It must be said, the foresight of a powerful man is beyond ordinary imagination, and the creative storytelling in Indian cinema is just as incredible. Sahadeva goes from a cold-blooded assassin to an embodiment of justice, and then becomes a loving father. He portrays this transformation with subtlety and life, revealing the character's rich inner world. A film's value is its reputation, a review's value is the feeling it gives you. That's our story for today. Thanks for watching. What did you think of the movie? Let us know in the comments. And remember to subscribe to Quick Movie Channel for more film reviews.